I looked outside, and outside there was a gang fight, and then all I can remember from my memory were just baseball bats and knives. I can remember just the knives just glimmering from the street lights and stuff. And I remember, and then after the police must have came and just all got arrested. And I remember one of them looked up to the window, looked at me. I said, "I'm gonna come for you," and that just, it kind of scarred me. It didn't really scar me, but I was scared at that time, just a bit cautious.
On the weekend, I was in Leeds, and I came across a group of boys who recognised who I was. So I was just talking to them about music, you know, was taking pictures and whatever else. But the same group of guys got into an altercation that resulted in a fatality. I spoke to one of the guys from the group, and he said, "Yeah, my boy died. It's mad. But I was so gassed seeing you, like, mum's life," in the same sentence. And it just made me feel like these guys are just so desensitized, like it's normal for them. We're gonna go out tonight, and you know what? My mate can die, and that's just how life goes, and we get on with it in the morning.
I think that it's a true representation of where the government are at in terms of funding. If we compared it to the health service, all the doctors and nurses are crying out for more money because the funding's been cut. And in the past 3 years, a third of the youth service budget has been cut. So that's going to directly affect the youth of today. And I think that showcases in the knife crime and other youth crimes that are happening in and around London.
I think looking at why people commit crime and murders is so important that we look at the context from the ground up rather than look at it from an aerial view. There are so many deep layers to why people do things and why there's been such a cycle of violence, and I think that we need to look at the communities. Systematic racism, classism merged intersecting with racism, and on top of that, sexism as well. There's so many factors that have happened before a lot of these young drill artists were even born, and grime artists. So many conflicting things that have happened that have set up this environment, this hostile environment.
I remember being 7 years old and feeling that I had to get things done and I had to be a big person because my mum depended on me, and inadvertently she'd put that pressure on me herself. She was working full-time. She couldn't get out to pick me up from school, so I'd watch other people's parents pick them up and go home, and I had to walk myself and let myself in and sit in the house alone. And so you have this sense of responsibility, and I had a younger brother, and I remember feeling like I was responsible for him. I had to make sure he was okay. And so when I was in year 7, year 8, you know, I made friends with certain guys who I knew that because I'm cool with them, my brother's cool. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's so-and-so's brother. Yeah, that's fine, leave him." So I just feel like there's this very early feeling of, I need to be a big man. And certain thoughts go through your head as a early teen, pre-teen, that I think if you were living in, I don't know, Cambridge, that those ideas wouldn't be going through your head.
When you've got so many intersections working against certain at-risk youths, how did we think their lives are going to play out? Did we expect them to be highly marginalised and extremely motivated with extreme high worth and not angry about the way that the world's going, not angry at how the media depicts them, how society makes them out to be monsters and inhumane and thugs, and all of these dog whistle politics that are constantly spread all over the tabloids, all over the news, and that people use that don't even realise what they're saying, that we've gotten to the point where when someone says thug in the British press, people instantly assume that they're speaking about a black male youth.
Like you're talking about the demonisation of black bodies, I think that the idea of the angry black woman, single mum, raising her angry black son, like I think those are often the ideas when you hear about a stabbing. Those are the images that come to your head. Those are the images that go hand in hand with the way that these stories are often reported even in those like TV shows where they're trying to go into the hood and be like, yeah, these are the people, I'm speaking to the real people, hear their stories. Every single time you're telling their stories with the filter of violent gang films on it, and the lighting is so, do you know what I mean? Like, it's always dim lighting with a broken street light, and the imagery of what they're wearing, and that's what's always propagated. And I know for a fact, because I live in that environment, that the sun shines where we live. It does, like it does everywhere else. Do you know what I mean? It comes up in the morning and people get up and they have breakfast, and the kids come out on the street and they talk to each other and they play with a football and they catch joke about foolishness and argue about pizza toppings. Like, we're human beings, real people. And when you demonize anybody or dehumanize anyone, somewhere in that process you have to dehumanize a part of yourself in order to be able to continue that narrative in your head. Do you know what I mean? And then when you do that, it's up to you to go back and undo that work that you've done in order to then really be able to treat those people like human beings. And that's the only way that you're going to come to a real viable solution. If you look at all these young people like demons, then you're never going to find a solution, because that's not what you're dealing with. You're dealing with people. And if you can't see them like people, where are you going to find a solution? You're just starting on the complete wrong footing. And your whole premise is about your own self, like, exaltation almost. Do you know what I mean?
It's just actually really, really, really bad. Like, everybody has access to a knife. Not everybody has access to a gun. So that's why, if we look at the figures on gun crime and knife crime, they're two different things. I remember when I was 15 and I got into an altercation with a group of girls, and they went in their little bags and they brought out kitchen knives, and I'm talking the ultimate kitchen knife with the wooden handle and the 3 silver circles. Yes, that's what she brought out. So, I mean, even if you feel like you need protection, you can just go in your kitchen and get it.
So I guess my experience of knife crime is being from different perspectives, really. So I've lost people that I love to knife crime. I've worked with people who've perpetuated knife crime, and I've worked with victims of knife crime. I think the only place I haven't been is the person behind the knife. But there were times in my school life where I'd carried knives to school for my safety, and didn't really think twice about it, to be honest. Like, it didn't feel that serious when I did it. It just felt like having something on me.
I think that when violence is propagated in a society, then it comes out. And it will come out in the way that everybody is shocked by, in the people who are most disaffected and marginalised. And I think that's what we're seeing.
It's been addressed through media and through a lot of social campaigns and different youth clubs, but I don't think it's really been tackled to the point where it should be, as it's still seeped in through different forms of media. The government has sort of kind of controlled it through music. It's not really the right way. So I remember there was these guys shooting a music video, and they were all marched up, and then they all just got arrested, and they didn't even do anything.
I think it's vital that we really, really look at what these young people are saying, and why they're saying it, and why they're living that life.
Because society's not caring. Like, even, for example, like people who live in poor backgrounds, it's like, where does society come in and help you if you don't have it, like, at home? If you don't have supportive parents, where do you find that? You don't find it in school, because teachers tell you the same thing. Like, work hard, get your grades, leave. And then when you're talking to a counsellor, it's like they have a script. So it's like, where is the genuine love in society that society is supposed to have for it to function properly?
I was lucky. My mum is a teacher, so she pushed me at school. I had a parents' evening and they said, oh, she's too chatty. And she said that's because she's bored. If the work was hard, she wouldn't be talking. And I think I was so lucky that I had a parent who knew how the teachers are, whereas a lot of children don't. And so they're told by teachers, you're not good at this, you can't achieve this. Just knowing what kind of jobs are out there and the people who you meet, if you close that door off, your estate becomes your world. I also am annoyed that, you know, they've closed down so many youth centres. There is nothing to do. If you live in London and you come from a family that doesn't have much money and school has made it feel like education's not your thing, what are you doing? What do you have to do? What else are you doing?
I feel like one of the reasons why it happens is because we lack empathy. Because if people thought about the consequences it would have on the person, the families, and everyone around them, they wouldn't do it. They would actually like step back and think about it, because I know that a lot of knife crimes, like there's no rationale behind it. There's no reason. It's like at the moment, in that moment, you decided to do it.
The way social media is today, it's like everything's documented. Back in my day, if I got bullied in school, only the people in my year were going to know about that. If you're getting bullied today in school, yeah, this person's going to film it. Yeah, this is going to go to different schools. Yeah, the whole world's going to know I just got batted up in the toilets. I can't have that. So now I need to go home and I need to think of what I'm going to do, and I need to get one up. And you know what? I'm going to bring a knife to school and I'm going to threaten them with the knife. But then in the situation, do I actually use the knife? I don't know. Who knows? But if cameras have come out now and I'm in the altercation and I've got the knife in my hand, I might just do it, just so I don't look like I was shook to do something.
I think when it comes to dehumanization and demonization, there's an overlap. You know, so when you demonize someone, they're easier to dehumanize. And I think what happens is we demonize these people in the news, these people who commit knife crime, and it's easier to not see them as human. And I've never met somebody who's perpetuated knife crime that hasn't gone through some sort of childhood trauma. Never. It's never happened. You know, with soldiers, when they go into war, when you're going into war, you carry weapons with you. When you're trying to survive your childhood, weaponry becomes part of that survival for a lot of people. So that I don't think like a lot of young people think about it as deeply as everybody else does. It's just something that you do in order to survive. It's a part of your environment. It's something that comes with the territory, really. I don't think a lot of young people go out with the intention to kill people.
Through culture, they're taught to not express their emotions in that way because it shows weakness. And even though it's not weakness, because you have to show vulnerability, you have to show that you have several emotions to your children, so then they're aware that they can handle their own or that their emotions are normal. But I feel like it's like, if you express this emotion, you're weak. And it's about keeping your guard up and staying strong.
We live in a society, largely the West, where, well, I mean, I think it's a worldwide problem that people love to segregate themselves, and things are so much easier to deal with when we don't see it as our problem. We don't see ourselves as a worldwide community. We see ourselves in races or cultures. And culture is an extremely important thing, but race is something that has been created to segregate and uphold power. Nothing more, nothing less.
I think what they're trying to do is just squash any outlet that we have that we own solely. And because the demographic of the artists who do create this type of music, they're just like, okay, let's shut this down.
Music's not to blame. I think music is just the canvas that people tell their stories on, and those stories come from what they experience, and what they experience comes from what is going on in the world and in our society and in London and other parts of England. And I think blaming the music is just it's an escape route, whether that's for the police, government, all the way up to Theresa. It's just an escape route. Like, oh, you're doing it to yourselves. It's like, it's gaslighting. You're gaslighting the youth.
I'm not going to rule it out that there's some influence. You know, I'm a musician myself. I talk about my life and what happens to me. These guys are just talking about their life and what happens to them. It's like a story. So we can all read books about murders. Do we now go out and become murderers? No, I don't think that we do. So I'm not sure why we have to always link it to music.
There's a whole narrative that led to these people being involved in this kind of behaviour. And I honestly feel that it's neglect. And it's the reinforcement that this is all that they can do, and this is all that they feel that they can do, and that this is all that they should do, and this is what's expected from them. And I feel that the moment that we start investing in black and brown boys is the day that this shit stops. Because these kids just aren't loved by society. We can see it in how, society's unshocked seeing refugee children being, neglected. But the minute that a pretty white girl goes missing, all hell breaks loose. And the minute that we really start investing our love in these kids is the day that this shit stops.
I work in a major trauma centre in London. There are 4. I work in one of the bigger ones. If I'm on call or if I'm doing a night shift, I'm part of the trauma team. What happens is we get bleep saying that there's a trauma coming in so that we can all get down to resus and await the arrival of the patient. And it really is soul destroying to see children coming in. Pediatric trauma, to me, when I was studying, meant a child has fallen off a trampoline. And now pediatric trauma is a 13, 14, 15-year-old has been stabbed. And it doesn't make sense when you see how small they are, how vulnerable they look, and for them to be in that situation and, surrounded by all of us. It's just, how you, it's always really strange when you see a small coffin. Whereas if you see a large one, you're sort of like, it's not okay, but you feel like, okay. It feels like that. You just shouldn't see a person of that size in that situation. And I'm sure outside they may be, a big man or whatever they're classified as on the road. But in that situation, in resus, they're just a child and they're scared and they're confused because they're bleeding. They've got into shock and usually they're asking where their parents are. What I think people fail to realise is a lot of people think, okay, so you're stabbed, so you survived, or you're stabbed and you died, that's it. And people don't consider the really long road to recovery and how much that can affect you as a child. Sometimes you've survived, but you have life-threatening injuries and injuries that will be with you until forever. Basically, you have a colostomy. You're pooing in a bag. You were once a young, healthy man playing football with your friends, going McDonald's, doing whatever you like to do on a Saturday, and now you have a colostomy bag. And how that will change your life forever, whether you go back to your previous lifestyle or whether you want to change your life, you've got to carry that with you forever. I have kids who've had to have long-term catheters because they can't urinate properly anymore, or nerve damage and so they can't walk properly anymore. People don't think about the psychological effects. So children who have nightmares now, post-traumatic stress disorder, because they have nightmares and they just keep reliving it. And I think that's the side that people forget. They stylize these children as gangsters. They'll find a picture of a child with a hoodie or doing a gun sign or a Snapchat video of them listening to whatever's the latest music that's attributed to gang life. And that's how they will display them on TV, in the newspaper. But actually, find a picture of them in their school uniform. Find a picture of them playing football with the Saturday or Sunday team. Find the picture of them with their family, because that's what you see afterwards. You see a child sitting in ITU with their mum, their dad, sisters, aunts. So I just think how we view knife crime or how it's reported isn't completely accurate for what we see, because I see children I just see children who've been injured, and I don't see this big thug who's a danger to society.